I just want to make sure that we're all squared away. Give me 1 sec, chat. I want Riot, dude.
Oh.
But so for now, I'm probably gonna be yeah, no one Riot. I didn't even mean that pun, chat. Chill. Okay, so first, let me preface this by saying y'all probably had a really crazy day, and I appreciate you taking time out of your schedules at 9 o'clock at night for me to jump on and hang out and talk about all sorts of stuff. I want you to know that chat has a lot of questions, as do I. Some of them are softball questions, and some of them are obviously going to be a little deeper, a little more invasive. And of course, feel free to tell me to shut up if there's something that can't be answered right now or whatever. Obviously, you have to work within your bounds. But whenever you're ready, I'm going to just start going down the list. And chat is, I'm sure they're all very excited to hear what you have to say.
I mean, you got us at the end of the day, so we'll probably answer more than we usually would. I think
Yeah,
the guard
seriously.
is down.
We're just too tired to fight. It's like, no.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to start with probably the easiest one. Talk to me about the closed beta. How long is it going to be? And on the 7th, when more keys are released, how many keys or, how much access is going to be given to people that are watching streams?
You want me to take this one?
You can start.
All right. So we can't tell you exactly how long the beta is going to be, but you know that we're releasing in summer. So the beta is basically starting from now until a point. So it won't be too long. On the 7th, we're going to start pumping out more entitlements. We're actually not doing keys, but we're doing entitlements onto your account through Twitch.
Yep.
Those entitlements are going to be more than were today. Like, I can't give you an exact number, but it's going to be more than today, more than double what we lose today.
More than double.
Also, after the 7th, we're still going to keep pumping out keys over the course of days after. So.
Okay. Chat actually is they're the professional streamers. They reminded me I probably should have done this. If you could please introduce yourselves and tell people what you do at Riot. My bad. Like I said, I'm tired too, so that's on me.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, so I'm Anna, Anna Donlin. I am the executive producer on Valorant. Basically what that means is I lead up the entire development team, make sure that we're focused on the right things, working on the right things, hiring the right people, spending money in the right way. Those are all my jobs.
I'm Joe Ziegler. I'm the game director on the team. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I do a lot of like.
We should probably talk. I'm your boss. If you don't know what you do, we should have a chat.
He just shows up for work and that's it.
Exactly. I just show up and I'm like, oh, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had, an owl in our game?
So you said no actual word on how long this closed beta is going to last. You're going to give out more than double the number of keys on the amount of access on the 7th that you did today. And I appreciate the information there. Next up is this is probably more of a bigger one. Monetization plans. The game's free to play. How's Riot going to make money off of it?
So yeah, game is free to play. If you know about our monetization in League of Legends, it'll look very similar. We will basically be monetizing primarily in the cosmetic space. No pay for power, no pay to win. It'll all be just through cosmetics, personalization of your experience, your expression. And then I think I saw questions earlier about Battle Pass. The plan right now is definitely to have a Battle Pass. I'd say V1 is going to be something that feels, probably relatively familiar and something we feel good about, but something we would definitely evolve over time if we saw good opportunities to evolve it.
You gonna put in RNG loot boxes?
There are no plans for RNG loot boxes right now.
Standing ovation.
Glad you're happy about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so that's a pretty solid one that people are gonna be happy about. Next up, what are your plans for ranked?
So we're gonna have ratings. Ratings and ranked. We call it ratings, but it's ranked. We're not going to have it available. Our ranked mode, we're not going to have it available day one of closed beta. It's going to occur a couple weeks in. We really want people to focus on learning the game in the first couple weeks, and it's really hard to do that if all your pressure is on your rank at the time that you start learning. So yeah, so we will have it. What other details are you interested in? for the rank?
When we go into the rank system, do you have a plan to make it just solos against solos? You're going to do solos against, and I guess that applies across the entire game. What is the matchmaking grouping process like?
So currently, our plans for both unrated and rated is you can queue as up to a group of 5 if you want to, and you'll go through.
So if I queue solo, do I have a chance to match against a group of 5?
Currently you do, but there's some stuff about how we match you that'll adjust to it.
Okay.
Currently, right now, we don't really want to put restrictions. Our goal is actually like really you should feel good about the idea of grouping with 4 other people and playing the game, or 3 other people or 2 other people if you want to. We don't really want to feel like you get punished if you group together, because our game is inherently a very social game. But we also understand that playing as a solo can be a little bit complicated, so we're trying to make it an even experience across the board.
Okay. The rating system, is it based on any other system that we might be familiar with that people can associate it with, or is it something you guys have grown in-house?
It's a bit of both, actually.
Okay.
Some of the stuff is things that we've adapted from like a system like Leagues. Some of it we taken from system like Leagues. It's sort of a mix and match that sort of really effectively works for our game.
Okay. Cool. People have asked. Here, I'll give you some easier ones. Map count at release.
We can't give an exact map count, but more than 2.
Okay.
And
Okay.
less than 20.
More
Less
than
than
2,
20.
less than 20.
Like,
Noted.
I think the big thing, less than 20. I think the big thing really is that we want to focus on having really, really high quality maps, like lesser but much more high quality maps, rather than 20 maps of which you hate 17 of them and feel like they're poorly put together. So we're really focused on making sure that's the experience.
Post release, if there's complaints about map geometry, that kind of thing, are you guys open to the idea of making fixes to those sorts of things? I know that's like, that could be art in-house intensive, that kind of stuff. So it would take resources away from what you're doing. And obviously we don't want to do that. But if it's in high demand and people are like, I hate that this thing is in the way, are you guys able to make changes like that on the fly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the beginning, one of the biggest philosophies we had is like, if we're going to service this game, we have to build it in a way that we feel like we can make the adjustments that are necessary for balance. And a big part of balance is map. So, yeah, we're definitely going to do that type of
Perfect.
stuff as we see it come along.
I guess we've been
Sorry, go
out
ahead.
there saying 4 maps so far, so I think we can safely say 4 maps.
Oh, can we say 4 maps? Okay,
4
4
maps.
maps.
I think
there
we
you
can
go.
say you can say 4 maps.
That is what I had heard, but I just wanted to hear it from, obviously, from from the mouth.
Yeah.
is way more definitive than me. I'm just a guy on the internet, so.
I mean, 4 is more than 2 and less than 20, so I'm feeling pretty good.
It is accurately in the spectrum you provided.
Okay. What about hero count at release?
Have
Or
we
sorry,
totally got that?
agent count. My bad. I
you
gotta
know,
get the words right.
agent count. There will be 10 when we launch the closed beta. We'll see how those go. We have a couple more kind of like sitting and awaiting. I don't know how many of those will release at launch. I don't think we're ready to confirm that, but we'll start with 10 and see how that goes.
Okay.
And if you do the math, that means you haven't seen one of them.
That's true. Oh, don't worry. I've been thinking about it on what you guys have in store. As far as an open beta before, so like right now, you're granted your whitelisting accounts. Is there going to be a period where all Riot Games accounts have access to a beta before release for the game?
I'm going to say that, like, I don't want to say no, but probably unlikely. Like, I think, if you look at summer 2020 as our launch window, like summer is a very broad, set of time. And I think we want to keep it that way right now because we want to see how the closed beta goes. Like, and I think that's why we're not committing to an end date for closed beta right now, because closed beta is about readiness for launch for us. So if we put an end date, then we're basically like shot calling when we think we're done fixing things. And I'm not comfortable doing that. But I think if we have a successful closed beta, then we will feel ready to launch. So I'm hoping we can go from one state into the next. But I will say our current kind of work from home situation, a bunch of impact from the current COVID-19 situation. There's a lot of unknowns right now, and we've been navigating them pretty well. but I'd hate to put a date on something and then have to go back on it. So I think we just need to be a little bit flexible right now.
It's funny you mentioned that. My next one is literally all it says is release date ? Do you have any? You say summer 2020. Or can we count on that? Obviously, like everything's up for change because anything can happen. But is that pretty solid?
I mean, I just want to say, like, I think my team will kill me if we don't release it this summer. Like, this has been a long time coming, and I think we are like, I mean, there are many people who would just want me to hit that button tomorrow. You know, there are just things we need to get into place, and the things we need to get into place are one, playing with our actual community of players and seeing if we got things right, because we don't know.
Oh,
Like, I
they'll
hope
tell
we
you if you
did.
got them wrong. Don't
Oh,
you
they're
worry.
definitely going to tell us. They're already telling us, right? So like, and they haven't even played it yet. So like, we're ready. Like that's kind of what we've been waiting for this whole time, is to get to this moment. But like, there's nothing really known right now in our way from hitting summer. Like, we wouldn't have said summer unless we were confident. But that was, you know, a little bit before the world changed. And so right now, like, I don't want to, you know, use it as a primary excuse, but I do think it is the main thing that would get in our way if anything got in our way. But signs are positive right now.
Gotcha. Cool. I think definitely the people that are very passionate about it also want you guys to be safe. So if there's any concern, especially like you said with COVID-19, all that stuff, do whatever you need to do to make sure you get things done at the right pace without putting anybody at risk. But
Thank you.
I swear to God, if you're late, there will be pitchforks at your front door. I'm just kidding. You won't hear.
I mean,
you won't
I
hear that
think
from me. But
I think it's like, you know, it's interesting because I think this gives the team like a lot of energy, like this release. You know, I think it's a lot of negative stuff to focus on in the world right now, and I think this is something that we all kind of look at as like, shipping this game is probably one of the most positive things in a lot of our lives right now.
oh,
So
100%.
it's important for me that my team stay healthy and stay safe, but it's also important that their like mental energy has something like really positive to focus on. I think they get that from this, and
Yep.
I can say today, watching kind of things go the way they went today, I think has given them the energy they need to get through the next couple months.
You hit, I think, peak 1 million viewers concurrent on Twitch alone. That's pretty nuts, I would say. I think that's a good sign. So
Joe and I were like refreshing, like
I know.
morons,
Yeah.
trying to.
F5. I'll give you a couple easy ones real quick so that chat can, because there's some people that are screaming at me. Is there aim assist in the game?
There's no aim assist. No.
Do you plan on supporting controllers?
We will have some level of controller support, but honestly, it probably won't be what a lot of controller players are used to. We're not supporting things like aim assist for controller.
Is it coming to console?
Okay, like I feel like I should probably just go just into like our platform strategy in
I think
general.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Right. Like we're not going to say no to any expansions of this game. We are completely focused on PC right now. We've been focused on PC for a while. Getting it right there was our primary goal. I think we're really excited to see what could happen on other platforms. But Joe and I have kind of made this pact with one another that if the game can't hit what it's hitting right now for PC players, that those highs and that feeling of like competitive play, if that feels diminished on another platform, then we wouldn't feel responsible putting the game on those platforms. So I think for us, like, there's definitely a lot of prototyping going on, you know, to see if that's possible, but we wouldn't commit to anything like that until we feel like we could really nail it, like we could get it right.
What about Mac OS, since that's the same aim mechanics?
I'll let Joe answer that one.
Currently, we're not planning to support macOS for launch. Of course, we'll look into it if we discover something along the way. Like, our focus right now is literally just PC, just making sure the PC is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like Anna's giving the political response here. I'll say, I'll be the one to say to chat, get it on PC. You probably won't play it anywhere else. Sorry, guys. All right. At least
I don't like breaking hearts.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. I can be the one. They can hate me. They don't have to hate you. Chat, get it on PC. All right, play with a mouse. It's fine. All right. Here's kind of a more expansive one, because I've talked about it based on what we saw in the boot camp. This is an extremely important portion of how the game works and what, in my opinion, is setting it up for one of the best positions it could be in. Talk to me about how the network backend works. Let's talk server tick rate. Let's talk network super sampling. I want you to give what you can for all that information, because that's really important to know about how it works. Because people worry about peaker's advantage and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think it's actually the thing we were trying to solve is a feeling that I think a lot of players get when they're playing shooters, which is you shoot a person or you're trying to shoot a person and there's a lot of things in the code and in the back end that are getting in the way of you feeling like your shot mattered. And ultimately one of these things is like tick rate, for example. Tick rate, for those of you who don't know, is like basically how many times a second does the server update. um, and for us, we're committing to having 128 tick servers because ensures a very high rate of refresh on the server for us. um, Network upsampling is basically the idea that when you're playing against somebody who's having internet issues, sometimes in games what you see is they blip around and it makes them really hard to hit, and you almost feel like they have an advantage because you can't predict where they're going to be. Um, on our side, what we did is we basically took it so that even if you're having those issues, the server basically smooths out those transitions and prediction of where you're going. And so when you're playing against them, you don't even see the difference. You just see them moving like a normal player. So your shots still matter and count where they're going. And then I think the other thing is the hit reg work that we've done on the back end, which is basically when you there's a version of the game that's running on the server and there's a version of the game that's running on your client, and the network is basically sending messages between the two to make sure they're right. With our hit reg, what we wanted to do is make sure you are as close as possible on your client as you are on the server. And what we've landed on is basically something that almost is identical. So every shot that you count should be something that the server recognizes as hitting it, which means that you won't get that feeling of I shot a person, I saw myself shoot that person, but the server basically chose to ignore it.
In your guys' internal testing, have you done anything globally with people that, because I'm not sure how widespread Riot is. Have you done long range network testing, like with actual clients connected to the back end, and seen if any of that stuff still happens, or is it? I mean, have you effectively removed that?
So we've done network testing everywhere, like everywhere along our local regions that we're going into closed beta with. There is always going to be a hiccup. A lot of the hiccups we found, we've solved. But one of the things about going to closed beta is it helps us test people in regions that we like, smaller areas that we haven't tested before, like for example, remote locations, remote cities, or things of that sort, to see if the sort of network backend that we're building, which is our sort of what we call our Riot Direct network, um, that optimizes the route that your information takes across the country to basically get to the server, to make sure that that's working correctly. In some cases, if you're in a certain place, your ISP will reroute you in a weird way, and it'll take longer for your messages to get there, and that'll cause you to have a feeling that your game is a little bit laggy. Um, we want to correct all those things, so we're going to need a lot more help testing these things. But majority of the cases we found already, we've already solved.
Is that
Yeah, I think that's like
sorry, go
good.
ahead.
Like I think it's good. Like you mentioned closed beta, Joe. Like I think, closed beta isn't just about finding bugs in the game or finding, balance issues or things like that. It's definitely about that, but it's also about, we made some pretty big promises. We aspire to be things that, I think would make this game really really great for our player base. And closed beta is where we're gonna fine tune that, and that's we need that time. We need that time to do that, and we need your help to do that.
Don't you worry, we will be there. Um,
Please, please
as,
help us.
as far as server infrastructure goes, will you be expanding to additional locations to reduce ping for players? Is that a plan? Because obviously you might have these things in place, but players often will look at a ping number, and if it's too high, they'll complain no matter what kind of stuff you're doing. Are you trying to continue to grow that?
So I think the key thing is understanding why their ping is high. Like for example, it could be that their ISP is routing them in a weird way, or they're too far away from the server, like you're talking about. I think as a service, we're always committed to trying to make the experience better for the player, regardless of the reason. And what we need help is understanding where those things occur. And so if we need to open more locations to actually ensure that we're getting better spaces, it's something we'll definitely consider as we're moving forward. The key thing is that we really want the game to be played at that high fidelity level, and we feel like that's the way it's meant to be played. So we're going to try to make that happen for everyone.
Is the server backbone you're running on your own, or is it from a web provider like AWS, Azure, or something like that?
I don't know if we can answer that one
I
actually.
don't know if we
Okay, I
can.
figured I'd ask. I wasn't sure.
No, that's completely fine.
Are there? A lot of people are obviously going to ask. Are there central U.S. servers? I'm gonna hit a whole bunch of regions real quick just to get these out of the way.
Our coverage covers Central. Yes, yeah.
I
I can't say exactly where the servers are. I don't know if we've telegraphed that.
I don't think you want to do that either.
Yeah, exactly.
Latin America.
So Latin America isn't in the closed beta. Do you want to talk about it?
No, I was just gonna say, so like so I just like, because you're probably gonna like throw a bunch of regions at us,
Yep.
which I would too.
I would say your best bet might be just go through the regions
everywhere except for NAEU, right?
Yeah, basically hit all the places, because there's people that are watching from all over the world, and they're gonna want to know if their region is covered.
So for us, the goal had always been a global launch, not necessarily closed beta, but definitely for launch, we wanted to be as global reaching as possible. We're not planning to roll out over the course of, many months to a lot of different regions. Where we're setting up infrastructure is going to be very dependent on a number of factors, but I think considering where we think the majority of our players are going to be, I think everyone's going to be super happy to see their regions covered. For closed beta, I do think we would like to test some additional regions. That was the original plan. That is probably where COVID-19 is hitting us the worst right now, is getting some of that stuff set up. I think we'll confirm along the way when we have more confidence. But yeah, I think, if you're in Brazil, if you're in LATAM, if you're in Australia, if you're like, you're gonna get to play this game, and you're gonna have a good experience playing this game. One thing to talk about. Oh, sorry, I'm distracted by my own live stream.
Look away.
Our investment, in Riot Direct, which we're gonna have a dev diary come out on April 6th. You guys will get to hear from the engineers who designed a lot of that stuff in more depth. But the beauty of it is it really allows us to go wherever we can or we want, like pretty quickly. So really, it's just going to be about seeing where our players are and how we can service them best.
And just to elaborate on what Anna was talking about regarding like the difficulties with the COVID, situation currently, I think one of the things is that a lot of the work that needs to happen to set up the network infrastructure that we have outside of NA and in regions like EU require people to be there or our partners to be there to help us support and set them up. And right now with the travel bans and things like that, it's actually really difficult for us to get a lot of that working.
Yep.
And so that's why they're not in the closed beta. And we are still looking to how we can unblock things like that to help expand our regions as best as we can.
Okay. Real quick, one from Chad that people are asking about. Unranked, does it have skill-based matchmaking as well?
Yeah.
There you go, chat. Talk to me about the anti-cheat and a system that I heard mentioned previously called Fog of War. People are obviously going to want to know how you're trying, because as a free-to-play game, if you look at, and I'm going to use Warzone as an example right now. Sorry, Infinity War and Activision. Bro, the number of times that we get aimbotted a day is insanity. It's terrible, and I don't think people want to run into that more in a game that right now looks fantastic. What are you guys planning on doing for anti-cheat? Talk to me about Fog of War, all that stuff.
Yeah, so like nothing enrages me more than when, you're playing a game and you feel like it's not fair. Like, well, basically somebody's doing something to break the rules of the system, or they're not playing your game, right? And I think for our anti-cheat, it's really based upon the idea of what can we remove out of the way so players' skill just matters the most, right? And so we've dedicated from the beginning having committed anti-cheat on our team, which is like having an anti-cheat team that's there working with our game code to actually help us build the best anti-cheat we can from the center out. One of the systems you're pointing out is the idea of Fog of War. So to explain how Fog of War works, the idea is, how I'm sure you've run into people with aim hacks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so or like okay, so and you run into people with wall hacks issues, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. So like how wall hacks work is basically the server's telling you on the client the position of all the enemies in the game, and someone writes a hack that basically tells you where that person is. Like basically brings it out of the game code to tell you where it is. And what we're trying to do with Fog of War is create a system that obfuscates where all the other players are until it's absolutely essential that they exist on your client. So they exist in your game. So that means like in your client, your enemies may not even exist in your space until the network says, hey, they're close enough, or they're in a situation where you can see them, or you're in a situation where you're about to see them, then it'll bring them in. And that prevents them from being able to basically use the information on your machine to show you where the other enemy.
Is that going to have any impact on latency in game, the way that the game plays and feels?
Part of doing the work is actually making sure that it conforms to our like performance standards and making sure that it actually doesn't have that impact. And so they've done a great job. Paul Chamberlain, of course, is going to murder me for explaining his system in such a very simple way. But
He's
but
dying right now. He's dying inside a little.
exactly. He's like, I could have done that better. But he's put a lot of work into making sure that that system doesn't compromise any sort of level of performance for us.
Perfect. This was kind of touched on earlier, but obviously I have a bunch of bullet points here. Plans for future maps, heroes, and weapons.
We have them.
Yes, we do have them. We will
For
do
all
more.
three of those
So
categories?
actually, I'll be specific.
Oh,
I'll be,
weapons actually.
yeah, I'll be specific. Actually, heroes or characters or agents. Actually,
Agents. Yeah, sorry.
agents and maps. We definitely have plans to release more of. Weapons we currently don't, unless we see specific opportunities. Part of that is because we like to have a stable system that we build characters and maps around. And for us, that weapon system is sort of the core of the game. The idea of what you shoot and how those weapons interact with the different scenarios that you're in. Having said that, though, of course, we're going to be a live service game. So if we see opportunities that we think are going to be great, we're going to try to test them out. We will react very heavily if we do add anything to the game, and we're going to dedicate ourselves to making sure that doesn't affect the integrity of the game, but rather always enhances and involves it.
Yeah,
Cool.
and we will always have agents in development, and we will always have maps in development, and we have a kind of an understanding or just like a prediction of what we think the pacing for those should be, and we're not going to talk about those yet, but I think we're also kind of ready to ramp up or slow down as we see the community needing. We don't
Cool.
want to just shove a bunch of stuff out there just to shove it out there. We want to take the pace from you guys.
That makes a lot of sense. Real quick, touching back on the anti-cheat and that system, how it's being handled. What is your harassment policy like? Is there a way to report players? And if bans are applied, especially in a situation where like someone is cheating, are we going as deep as like a hardware ID ban, so they have to buy a brand new machine if they want to try and get back in and cheat again? Because it's a free-to-play game. People want to know how all that stuff is going to be handled.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this stuff has been talked about before, so I think I can talk about it a little bit. We are exploring hardware bans. By exploring, I mean we are implementing them, especially for cheating. We really want to take a very, very strong stance against cheating because we know it compromises like the competitive integrity of the game and really ruins the experience. For things like harassment, we are going to have reporting tools. We are also having our own detection that we actually utilize, but the key thing here with harassment is that our key thing is to prevent players from really kind of disrupting a game, and also protecting players from anything that's like super egregious and could ruin their gameplay experience. Our goal is not to like straight up police people. That's never been our goal, you know.
Gotcha. You plan on putting like an avoid player option if somebody's getting the same game repeatedly and you don't necessarily want to play with them again, like a right click in the menu and say avoid player in the future?
A lot of our systems that we're actually looking to iterate on as we sort of see more player interactions inside of our game, because our sample size has been so small so far, are going to be built off of concepts like that, where it's like, how do we make sure that you keep getting into a situation that's generally gameplay positive and experientially positive for you?
Cool.
We also end games when we detect cheaters.
We do, yeah.
Sick. I love that. Thank you. I know a lot of people
And we forgive
already.
you.
Well, a lot of people already went nuts. Oh, you said the game's forgiven, so it's like it didn't happen.
Yeah. So it doesn't count as a loss for any of the other people who weren't cheating.
We love that. Thank you.
Except for the cheater, they will feel it.
Yeah, the cheater will feel it. There, yeah.
I certainly hope so. Couple of quick ones for you. FOV slider.
So actually, I don't think we're going to be putting in FOV. We have our FOV is specifically determined for a gameplay reason. Part of it is because we don't want to. The gameplay reason is because the depth of the FOV determines largely how much of the screen and the world you render in the space. So if we let you narrow it or increase it, it changes how much of the world you can see. And so we want everyone to be on the same ground when you're looking. So if your peripheral vision, for example, can catch something on one side versus another, based on your setting, that can be an unfair advantage that you get from
So
playing.
you're doing it essentially for a competitive balance between players.
Yeah.
Which I think people that see the goal of Valorant will be happy about that. People that want to do whatever they want so they can get the biggest advantage might be frustrated. But I think if people take a second and think about it, if you're covering, you're covering all your bases there. A locked FOV. What is the actual FOV?
103.
103, yeah. And there's also
Nobody's
another
gonna be mad about that.
If you narrow FOV also, it can cause character model sizes to increase, which increases like the chance that you can get a headshot or things like that. So, well, there's a lot of reasons why we want to kind of stick with one FOV.
What about custom resolution, screen resolution? 4:3 support, ultra wide support, custom resolution support.
So for accessibility, we are supporting 4.3, but we're not supporting 4.3 stretch, and we're supporting 16.9 and 16.10. The reason why we don't, well, so for 4.3, if you're playing in it, you'll see black bars on the left and right. The reason why we don't support stretch is a similar reason to the FOV, where it can increase the character model's pixels and allow for easier aiming inside of the game. So we wanted to really be concrete about everyone having the same fair experience.
Gotcha. Okay. There's some people that are like, hit me with questions. If you've tipped the channel with a question, don't worry. A lot of that stuff is probably already in the list. There's a lot of questions here, y'all. I only have a limited amount of time. Do you have plans for a spectator system? I know that in what we played, the space was there, but we couldn't click into it. So is that going to be available at release? What about a game replay system if people want to review old gameplay and fly around basically with a ghost cam?
So the spectator system, we are planning on having a version of it at release. Like any other feature, we're going to iterate on it and add more features to it. That's as we discover the time to do it, essentially. With the replay mode, we won't have that on release, and part of that is actually this complicated thing about wanting to release it at a certain time, but not having all of the manpower and time to basically do all these features that we have on our backlog. We definitely do want to investigate a replay system and sort of think about it, but we've deferred it to post-launch at the current time.
Okay, no time frame for it?
Not currently, no. Okay. We're always re-updating all of our priorities when it comes to our future.
Yeah, the development process, obviously, as things grow and change, there's going to be people that, things that fall into the spotlight that maybe were not as important previously because the community has spoken. So actually, if anything, that's good for you guys because it shows that you're listening to what people are requesting.
I mean, that's totally it for us right now. Like we have amazing plans. I love plans. I love calendars. Big part of my job. But those plans could change on April 7th, May 4th, whenever. Yep. So we have to be flexible.
And that's why it's so important that people feel welcome in giving us feedback and sort of providing us with what's important to them. A game evolves just as players play it, and we want to make sure that we're staying on top of the experiences and the considerations and concerns that people are having.
Okay. Real quick, you mentioned 16.9, 16.10, and 4.3. What about 21.9? Ultra wide.
I have to check on that. I actually don't know. I don't think we support 20.
I think ultra wide is blackbarred.
Yeah, you're right. It's blackbarred. So almost every resolution that is not one of the standard resolutions, I think, is there, but blackbarred at the current time.
Chat's going nuts over May 4th now because you happen to mention a date.
No, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. I'm sorry. I was just trying to find any date that was in the future. Sorry.
Yeah, chat's
just start naming dates now. Just be like, August 7th.
I'm a Star Wars fan. May 4th is always top of mind.
Can we get some leaked in chat, please? Okay, plans for and I'm gonna use Fortnite as an example. Don't crucify me, chat. But plans for a creative mode, custom maps. People like to do CS:GO, the surfing stuff, anything like that. Maybe is there a server list search? Anything?
So we won't have server lists. We're gonna run all our central servers because we can guarantee the quality of the server if we do it that way. We don't have any plans for community created maps or modes at the current time. Part of that is actually because we're looking to like curate a bunch of stuff for our players, but additionally, I think it's hard for us to curate a bunch of stuff that our players make. Our team isn't really well prepared to do that, and so what we don't want to do is create an experience where there's a flood of content, but it's really hard to find it, and we have to spend a lot of time creating tools to actually do that, as opposed to putting all that effort into the game and making sure it's really well sustained and managed.
Colorblind mode?
We do have colorblind support. I think 3 types of colorblindness, or at least red, green, and then I forgot the names of the other 2, but we have. If you notice in the stream that you had, there's like red highlights around players. That is also colorblind customizable as well, so you can have a
Cool.
yellow highlight or things of that sort for enemies.
What about sound visualization? If there's players that are deaf that want to be able to play?
This is a complicated one. I think we're looking into ways that we can actually help our like hearing impaired players understand the sounds in the game better. I think the balance that we're trying to strike is how do you make features that help to do that aren't just utilized by players to game the system of listening to sound and sort of making judgment calls off of that. We're still looking into it. Some things in our game are visualized. For example, if you look at your mini map, whenever you make a sound or walk, there's a circle that emanates from your character. That circle tells you how far that sound is broadcast.
It was very difficult to see on the stream just because of compression stuff, but I can tell chat without a doubt. Anytime that you make a sound on the minimap in the top left, it does show a very faint, very thin circle around your character that shows exactly how far the audio can be picked up by other players and your teammates, which makes it a lot easier to know when you are, if you're like pushing a corner and you want to make sure that you're safe, and if there's someone watching it that they don't hear you, and you might know where they are, you know when to stop moving full speed and slow down, that kind of thing. So that actually is a pretty big piece. But full on sound, sound visualization, I know for any hearing impaired players, that's going to be really important, because you don't want to exclude. You don't want to, obviously nobody wants to exclude anybody. So
Never, yeah.
Streamer mode of any sort, be able, hiding your name or anything like that.
That's one of the features we're actually looking into supporting. We don't know exactly where it's going to land yet. We want to get it done before launch, obviously, to help support streamers, who want to obviously put their name inside of the game. We're looking into it right.
Okay. What about if you have teammates that are quitting? If you have people that leave your match, at what point in the match does it potentially not penalize you? If it's too far through the match, or do you still have to play it out?
So we're actually testing some features regarding this over the course of closed beta. We have things like if a person is detected as AFK, or if a person actually disconnects or leaves the match, how do we handle making sure that the team who's been abandoned has like the means to be able to pick up that game and be able to, tackle the issue. Like, for example, distributing that person's money across the team, things of that sort. These need feedback, so if you see it happen inside your game, hopefully no one has anybody leave their game, but if they do, we'd love to hear the feedback on whether or not you feel like that's actually something that helps lessen the blow of having a teammate leave.
Is there I guess there's probably going to be no, go ahead, sorry.
Oh yeah, and also we are looking into leaver penalties, so it's not like you can just leave and you feel like that's an okay thing to do. We really want people to commit to the game. So there will be leaver penalties, yeah.
Day one for this thing is probably going to lead to some group of kids trying to knock your servers offline. Is Riot prepared to handle that?
Please don't.
Yeah, first, please don't. That would make us really sad. Second is, yes, we've done what we can to prepare for that scenario. Now, obviously, you can never prepare for every scenario, but we've done our best as we can to sort of protect ourselves in some way and make sure that we can continue to support players who are playing the game. It's a complicated problem, though.
The benefit of 10 years of League of Legends and this not being our first time to this experience is I think we're decently set up.
Mouse sensitivity, is there going to be variation between horizontal and vertical? Some people like lower vertical sensitivity so that that's naturally how they play. Do you plan on separating the two?
Right now we only have one mouse sensitivity setting that's sort of universal. It's both horizontal and vertical. It's something we definitely could look into, especially if a lot of players are interested in sort of separating their horizontal and vertical sensitivity.
I know there's a lot of people that do have variations, so that's I think is a pretty important one.
Okay, cool.
The database backend, is there going to be a publicly accessible API for sites that do rating systems and display all that information? Are you going to make that publicly available?
Shout out to those guys because I know they're all listening. They are definitely doing the work on that right now. I can't
They're
commit to
working on it,
exactly
yeah.
when, but they are. That is all we're talking about right now.
Available at full release, available at closed beta?
We actually don't know
Not for closed
exactly where it's
beta.
going to land. Yeah.
Yeah, not for closed beta. Hopefully for launch, but we're still working on it.
Okay. Next one's kind of a tough one because I think over the last couple of years, especially because of the way that Epic handled Fortnite update release cadence and patches, that kind of thing, and when they were adding new content, balance passes, all of that, people at initial release got really used to like a weekly thing, which I know is it can be very demanding crunch time wise for the developer, that being you guys. What is Riot's plan for balance pass frequency or update frequency for the game?
So right now I don't know if we've announced how frequently we're going to do balance patches, but we plan to have sort of two different types of reactions. One is like hot fixes, and the other one's balance patches. Now, obviously, with hot fixes, it's is there an emergency that we feel like we really need to tackle, and with balance patches, it's can we bundle things frequently enough that address player concern or imbalance, right? And so we'll be doing them frequently enough, as at least I wish I could, it's hard to say without saying the exact time, but we're going to do it frequently enough to respond really well to players. Um, I think that answers the question. What was the other part of that question?
I was basically just how often are you going to do balance passes or just updates in general for the game?
So updates will come at different points. I think for content updates, for example, for new characters or new maps or things of that sort, what we want to do is we want to strike the balance between evolving our game and adding things that really continue to challenge and sort of up the level of competition in the game, while also making sure we don't overwhelm and sort of compromise the ability of players to learn and adapt to it. So a lot of our cadence is going to be built on that. Like Anna said before, we can't exactly say exactly how long it's going to take us to release some of this stuff, but that's really the focus of what we're doing with these releases.
Yeah, I think it's like a company, like our muscle has been built around that 2 week cadence. Like we did with League, and I think that could work for us if that like from a cadence and just like reliability perspective. I think we could do something like that, but I don't know if that's going to be exactly the right model for this game. So I think we're gonna have to see how that goes.
The
But
key
to
thing is
Joe's
that
point, we'll fix stuff that's broken. Balance is a different situation.
yeah, the key thing is that we will respond as fast as we need to for players to maintain their experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any plans on allowing a left-handed view model for the weapons or any view model changes in general?
So we're looking into it right now. It wasn't something we built into the system originally, and as we've been testing, we found that more people have preferences regarding the left side versus right side view model. So we're looking into what that will be right now. Don't know if it'll land for launch, but we want to bring it online as soon as we can.
Same thing along the same lines. The weapon bobs when you move. Any plans to allow that to be disabled? Some people like to be very granular about what how the model moves. We're talking just the on-screen one. Is it possible to stop that, or is that not going to be added?
So you're talking about the animation of the weapon moving
when
up
you
and
walk,
down as
yeah,
we're moving.
it moving up and down.
So right now we have no plans to disable that. Part of that, it's something we definitely can look into, though. I mean, I think we're just gonna have to talk about it as a team about whether or not, like basically, there's the concept of do we want to do it? If it's a preference level thing, it's actually not too bad, but more of an issue of do we have the technology to do it, and what would we have to move to actually make that happen? Is really the question we have.
Okay. Here's another little kind of granular one. When you're scoping with a sniper rifle and not moving, the red square pops up, and when you're moving, it disappears. Is there any way to flip those to reduce the amount of coverage on the screen so that the red is there when you are moving? Just because sometimes people are looking for it's like this is a super nitpicky thing, but people are looking for as much visibility as possible when they're going to be 100% accurate, pinpoint accurate with a snipe. Can you flip the red dot?
That's something we definitely can look into. We haven't had any specific plans, but this is actually a great list of like feedback points, by the way. I'm actually loving this because now we can take this back and sort of talk about, hey, where can we fit this in sort of the work that we want to do? And
You don't have to write any of it down, by the way. It'll be on my YouTube tomorrow. Smile.
excellent. It's
Thanks,
all
Steve.
documented.
I'm saving a big one for a little bit for later. I know a lot of people are screaming about it. I love you, chat. Don't worry. Here's another one. Do you plan on putting out lore in regards to the characters, backstory, anything? Because a lot of people do like to know about who they're playing as, that kind of thing.
Yes, eventually. I think we want people to focus on the game, the playing of the game, what the game is, what it feels like to play. I think that we want that to be our primary focus right out of the gate. But we also know that people do want to feel some people do want to feel a connection to those agents, and we're putting a lot into these agents to make them feel really distinct and make them resonate with you. So yeah, for sure. I can't go into like the extent to which we're going to do that, but yeah, for sure.
And our key strategy is actually we want you to engage with the world, but we're not looking to shove a bunch of story down your throat either.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit of both. You'll get a lot of the characters' backstories and sort of their origins, and you'll get little bits of the world. But there's also going to be some mysteries that we're probably going to sew in there that we kind of want to string people along with and have a little fun with. So we'll be doing a little.
Cool. So other companies, I'm gonna use Bungie as a reference here. They put out these roadmap infographics. Is there any plan to put something out? Because that makes it really easy to just display to chat or put on social media. Do you guys plan on having something official put together like that, a roadmap of sorts?
We've talked about this. I think we would like to become that predictable. Yes, I think that would be the goal. I don't think we can promise that level of predictability right out of the gate. I think we need to make sure that the game is solid and settled before we do that. But as soon as we can, I think that's something we would want, is to be able to give that level of visibility into our plans, get people excited about a certain moment that's coming. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Plan on putting up like just a general public game status site where people can see the status of, because people like to know if if they're having a problem, they can go to a site to check if there's infrastructure problems.
I know we talked about this. I think we're thinking of solutions that would actually solve that problem for players. We don't exactly know what form it'll take, but we want to create some sort of visibility for players to be able to understand if there's a problem, whether it's an issue with them or if it's an issue with ours.
Yeah, we'll be doing something for sure.
Okay. Local land support. So if me and a couple, and 9 of my friends want to come over to my place and play on LAN, is there going to be any system for that?
It's actually really hard to support a system like that right now. Part of it is because it's more about offline support, and so much of what our thing is connected to our account structure and sort of like all the stuff you own. And so it's hard to separate those two concepts inside of our game, and we don't want to. It's a really tough thing for us to do. So but simultaneously, there are situations where we probably will be setting up a local style environment. Like for example, if we do hypothetically anything with esports tournaments or things of that sort, we need that capability to do so. So it may not be,
Hypothetically.
yeah, hypothetically. So we may not be supporting it necessarily on the average case, but we will have it ready for things that will require it.
Okay. Quick one from chat. Any mouse acceleration in the game?
No mouse accel.
There's a lot of these that are going to get answered pretty easily. Any plan for future modes beyond what people saw on stream?
Can't tell you everything.
I got to ask the questions, man.
No, absolutely.
Don't shoot
No,
the messenger.
I totally get it.
Any plans to address smurfing or boosting?
Yeah, that's all part of sort of some of our future service plans that we're looking into. Is like, we know smurfing can be a problem, and some of it is how do you detect a smurf early. Some of that we do actually through some of the stuff we have on the back end in terms of matchmaking and skill detection. But yeah, I think we're always looking to fight things that make you feel like matches are more unfair.
Okay. I'm
still. It looks like you just fell asleep, by the way.
I'm getting a little bit of I think there's a little bit of chop on in Discord for some reason. I apologize for that. If you could, just for some people that are new to the game, what exactly does ADS do on non-sniper weapons?
So it is depend like for majority of weapons, what it does is it connects your crosshair, like the dot that you have on the reticle, to where the bullet is going to go. So it's how with your hipfire, they'll disconnect and you'll be watching the bullet tracers to drag it down. It'll connect those two things. It also obviously zooms the target a little bit closer, so it's really good for optimizing around when you're like mid or long range. When you're using those targets, when you're looking for one tap or two tap or small burst scenarios.
Okay. And probably one of the biggest ones. There's a couple others in chat. I guess map voting. Is there any system like that coming where like maybe you queue up unranked and it gives you an option to veto a map?
Right now, given the small pool of maps that we have, we're probably not going to be doing any vetoing specifically. But that is also something that we could introduce if we find as we get more maps that we want to actually limit pool size and allow for some of that, map banning kind of quality.
And chat, real quick, a lot of you guys are hitting me with a lot of stuff that I've already asked about. I promise you I'm not ignoring you. I'm just making sure we get the big ones out of the way. And I guess I'm going to leave this last one until now. Talk to me about esports, because you are absolutely building this game to be an app. It's a competitor. I mean, everything you've done on the network side, everything you're putting in place across the board, to me, screams esports. Am I going to see a competitive scenario, a competitive environment, whether it's supported by Riot or not?
Do you want to answer this one, or
like we should have known this was going to be the last question asked. I mean, we should, right? Like we should. Like
I
I
would
think
say
you look,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we should. We'll have some community tournament guidelines coming soon. Like we're working on those first. I think we want to see what this community wants out of an esport. You know, we have a lot of experience in the esport world, but we really need to understand what players are looking for with this game's esport, and develop it from there. But I mean, there's no world where I'm going to say no, we haven't been thinking about it, or no, we're not going to do it. Of course, it's something we want. Of course, it's something we should be looking at, investing in. But yeah, I think we don't want to force it. I think forcing it would be a mistake. So
it is hard for me to imagine a world where a game has 128 tick servers and does everything it can to make it as competitive as possible, and you do not build a competitive environment around it. I think,
yeah.
and this is obviously just my opinion, but if Riot is like, I don't know, and you guys don't go down that path, I think you've missed a big one there. I'm being honest with you.
I think we're all hoping it becomes an esport. I just think we're just trying not to be presumptuous and assuming that what we think the esport should be is what the players want it to be. So we need to learn more from our players as we prep to build an esport, to actually target the right thing. And so the team that's working on that is doing a lot of research and working with a lot of people.
See, the team that's working on that, like he said, like the team that's working, it's not like we're like, there's no one at Riot who's going, I don't know. Like we totally want this, right? But it needs to be genuine. It needs to be built with the community, and we need to know what that looks like. But yeah, we want this.
Obviously we saw it on stream, but just to hear it directly from you guys, there is private match or custom match support.
Yep, customs.
Okay.
Will be there.
Do you intend, I guess this is more of an opinion thing, if you do go down the esports commitment, path, do you intend to put any form of age restriction on the players that are qualified to play? And if so, do you have an estimate on what that age might be?
I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah,
we're
not there yet.
I saw a lot of that in different threads throughout the day-to-day. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay. Chad will either pitchfork that or I'm not sure. Maybe they have their torches out. We'll see. Just trying to make sure. For playing in the beta, if you got into the closed beta in any way, will there be some sort of thing that you get on your account when it goes live?
Yes. There will be some stuff.
I think we always want to thank players who help us test the game, so
Cool.
there's going to be some stuff there, yeah.
Any plus we've seen, obviously we saw in the stream stuff and all the content we posted, knife skins, weapon skins, any plans for agent skins?
By the way, I'm really excited about our weapon skins. Like,
They do look pretty
I
sick.
used to work on skins team over on League of Legends, and when I came over to this game, I was like, we have to have 6 skins, and that team is not disappointing. But for agents, I think it's a little trickier. I think the natural inclination is yes, we should have them, and then you start thinking about the integrity of the competitive nature of this game, and it starts to get really complicated. So we've got some prototyping plans coming up, but we're not going to commit to agent skins until we know we can. It's like weird. It's like oddly
Yeah.
similar to our platform conversation. Like,
Yeah.
unless
Well,
we can do it right in a way that doesn't screw up the game, like we're
Yeah.
not going to do it.
yeah, exactly. I think the commitment here is that like no matter what we make from a cosmetic angle, whether it be things like character skins or not, we're really looking at making sure they don't violate any of the competitive integrity, which means clarity or hitboxing or anything else.
Perfect.
Right.
Any plans for some sort of like, yeah, I guess this kind of relates back to seasonal, like the update cadence, that kind of thing. Do you plan on doing anything seasonal? Anything? Are we going to see like events in game, that kind of stuff?
I think yeah. I don't know when, but yeah.
Yeah.
We like parties.
I mean, honestly, we've talked about it, and we're looking into when we can begin to experiment with it. But yeah, of course, who doesn't like seasons? Seasons.
All right, and I think this might be the last one because it's been an hour. And might be one of the most aggressive ones I'll ask. But you are
Go for it.
you're essentially taking on CS:GO head on. To a T, this game does what CS:GO does. Maybe better in some ways, maybe worse in some ways. A lot of CS players are I've seen very competitive CS players have very strong opinions about the game one way or another. Obviously, you don't need to respond to that. But your game, I think it's great. It is very much like Counter-Strike. Was the inspiration drawn from CS? Did you, when you were building this thing, is it, do you have the intent to take Counter-Strike on head on? Because that's, I mean, from the outside, not often do we see somebody, I think we haven't seen anybody build a tac shooter like this ever. Like, you guys are the first ones to step up to the plate.
So, actually, I don't know, you want to take this first? I could also take it first. It's up to you.
I don't know. It's such a good one. It's such
So it's a great
one.
question. First of all, I love the question. That's a really good one.
It's a really good question. I think, I think it's just really important to understand, like, we don't, and I mean this, like, we don't sit around and say success looks like we killed that game or we took all their players, or like, it's just not how it's not how we're looking at it. We have a lot of people on our team who play CS religiously. You know, they love that game. So we'd be lying if we said there wasn't inspiration drawn. But it's not about going after any particular game or any particular FPS genre. It's just, I mean, you can talk about the origins more, Joe. I don't want it to come across as like, we're trying to beat anybody else. That's not
Yeah,
the goal.
I mean, I think we're making this game as a team because we love these types of games, including games like
Yeah.
Counter-Strike. I don't think in our minds we're thinking we're making this game to try to beat somebody else in our head. So maybe it's naive of us because obviously some players who play either game are going to come and make comparisons and play against it. But our goal ultimately was to try to make the modern tactical shooter that embraces like sort of the new creativity that we feel like players bring to the game, because players even now are probably more sophisticated than they were when we were playing CS back when we were in college and things of that sort. And so we just want to make a game that celebrates that idea and brings in the creativity of new players.
Perfect. I appreciate you guys taking time. I don't want to take up too much more for chat. If there's any questions that were asked in chat and you feel like I did not ask them, I apologize. I tried to cover as many bases as I possibly could. I had a huge list here, and I was pulling from chat. If there's stuff that there's potentially a chance that things were already answered, so keep that in mind. One more for chat, kind of to be happy about if this is how it was in the beta. I guess I'll give you one more happy one for the end. A player gets disconnected. They didn't choose to. Can they reconnect to a game?
Yeah, they definitely can.
Thank you. Guys, Joe, Anna, thank you very much for your time. Again, on screen chat, if you want to follow them on Twitter, There's their handles right there, guys. Chat, if you could please claps to chat. Both of you taking time this evening after a very crazy day to answer, like I said, a ton of questions. Some very aggressive, some much easier than others. So I
Hey
appreciate.
man, like honestly, thank you for this. Like we've
Yeah,
been
thank you so
waiting,
much.
like we've just been waiting to talk to people about this game for so long. This is a dream come true for us, really.
Of course.
And honestly, thank you to everybody who's watching. It's you
Yes,
know,
thank you
like
to everybody.
it's we're excited that you're so excited to come join us for this thing. We obviously can't get everybody in right now, but we're looking to get as many as we can in. And it's just very exciting for us. So thank you for joining us for the ride.
Of
And
course.
thank you for letting us chat to the
Of course. I did. I had a great time watching games all day.